This week there was, some good parts, which were, I had my birthday weekend, and I, definitely noticed, number one, I had less nervousness with going into each of the gatherings, whereas before I would be kind of wondering how it's going to go, or trying to control this or that, or who's going to talk to who, or I don't know. I didn't really notice that till later, that I didn't even have really any anxiety going in.
That's huge.
Which is huge.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely noticed during the gatherings that I was so much calmer inside. I just felt, whereas before, looking back and thinking about it, I would always be sort of trying to keep score with myself as far as who loved, oh, they're here, they must love me, or oh, look how many people, oh, I must be feeding that insecurity, trying to constantly feed that insecurity.
Yeah, trying to validate yourself, confirm. It's constant confirmation.
And I noticed this time I was just on this little happy pink cloud, and I felt much more loving towards the people that were there.
Mm-hmm.
And just feeling love and gratitude, and
so much less self-centered, would you say?
I felt much less self-centered.
Oh, that's so
exactly
awesome. So much more connected too. I bet you really felt more connection with people.
I did, especially with, one gathering was with a bunch of girls I grew up with, and there's been, drama through the years, falling out with one that I, sort of helped put it back together a couple of years ago, and
mm-hmm.
there's always sometimes a little bit of remnants of that, and, this time it's I just didn't feel any of that, and she sort of started crying and expressing, how much she loves me, and I would normally kind of stiffen up a little bit, how much of this am I gonna, accept, or, I don't know, it was instead I just, threw my arms around her, and it just, everything just felt really huge, and I felt really grateful for that.
It sounds genuine.
It was,
yeah.
And it was kind of, at one of the lunches at the restaurant, it was kind of funny, because I had gone to this restaurant with my mom, on Christmas night, and the waiter is this cute kid, and, we had chatted him up, and, had a fun little talk with him, and, so we decided I wanted to have my birthday lunch there. It's just a small little low-key place, and so we all kind of pile in, and I see him, and I'm like, hi, and it was so hilarious, because he, looked at me blankly and did not remember me.
Yeah. He's like, hello. How are you?
Literally never happens. I mean, it's literally, and I just, it occurred to me that he had forgotten me, which was, my whole big thing. I'm so scared I'll be forgotten.
Yeah.
And anyway, it was this little life moment. I just got the biggest smile. It just made me so happy that he forgot me.
Yeah.
And it made me realize that I didn't have to keep up the, charm of Christmas, how I'd kind of have this little fun little exchange with them, and normally I'd feel I've got to keep having that little fun with them, and
yeah.
It was just, I don't know, it was kind of this funny moment of how, it does kind of feel good to be forgotten sometimes. But so that was good. Then I guess just the rest of the week and going into the week, it's just been kind of hellacious, and so I don't know, I'm just really struggling with surrendering.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm circling it, and
mm-hmm.
I know that I feel like I'm on, it reminds me, I keep having a vision of when I was in Kauai, and I was going zip lining, and I didn't want to go, but I wanted to go, and I'm pacing on the platform,
yeah, oh yeah. Oh, totally. I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die.
And it was my family was just come on, Kristen. And I was I'm terrified of heights. I'm literally terrified of heights. I could throw up. I'm so scared of heights. But it was
I am
I
too.
wanted to zip line. I wanted to fucking zip line with my mom. But my 5-year-old mom just sailed across the canyon screaming happily. I'm like, it was like, I need to do this. And it was, I mean, I literally just was crying and having a nervous breakdown on the platform. And like the guy was like,
yeah, and then
helped me and then pushed me, basically.
Yeah, and then the whole time while you're having a breakdown, you're witnessing the breakdown as something so ridiculous. So then you're embarrassed, and it just snowballs into this dumb thing. Yeah, I am very afraid of heights as well. It's almost like I have no power over that. It feels like I see heights and my whole body just goes, you're not moving.
Yeah.
You know those videos where people are being dragged across like this glass floor over a...
Oh, God.
Every time I see those, I'm like, yeah, no, I couldn't. I would be in total paralysis. You know, like those goats that get scared and go into like complete stiff shock. That's what would happen to me.
Just keel over.
And here's the irony for me, and when I went through what I'm directing you to go through, is it felt to me as if I was being heaved off of a cliff. And that I would fall to my death. So it was definitely connected to heights. For me, that was like the worst feeling. I mean, imagine if you were being taken to a cliff and being thrown from it. How that would feel. It feels like you're scratching at the earth, fingernails ripping off, but doing everything you can to not face it. So what I did, if I were to give you what it would feel like, if you can imagine this in your mind, so let's do it together. Just imagine this and go through what this would feel like so we can connect the feelings. I want you to imagine that you walk up to a cliff, turn around, and voluntarily fall backwards.
Oh, God.
Because you were so done.
Yeah, I had the awareness last night that this is definitely, it is a leap of faith.
And yes, it is. Yeah.
It's a leap of faith, and I think, where before, until recently, I thought it was a leap of faith to get me to thinness.
Yeah, no, this is a leap of faith to just get you something other than what you have, and we don't even know what that is.
It's just a leap of faith to maybe to end the suffering, to peace.
For whatever that is, and we don't know what that is. So it's a leap of faith into something you have no clue exists. It's in a completely different existence. So the faith really comes to that you can handle it. So that's what it feels like, is a handling. Like, even though you can't, there's no sense of capacity. So again, I'm telling you what this felt like for me. It felt like there was absolutely no capability or capacity to handle whatever it was. And so to do this, I had to accept that essentially I would, and it is a sense of permanence. Have you felt permanence in this feeling yet?
Well, I feel, I guess, permanent in the way that I know that I'm not going back.
So the permanence, is there any sense of permanence that you'll be miserable in this space that we're heading to forever? That if you accept your weight like this, you will permanently feel like hiding forever.
Well, that they'll be permanent. I just keep thinking, I'm going to be an old maid. That's kind of what keeps coming into my head. You're just going to be a fat old maid.
Okay, and in that, what you just said has the context of "in that sucks, poor me." There's the victim.
Yeah.
So what you need to do is accept that that's what it is. So everything that is threatening you, it's added to your list of yes. So every single threat, you are to say yes to.
Okay.
You're going to be an old maid. Yes. You're going to be alone forever. Yes. And it feels permanent. It really feels permanent. And you have to accept permanence forever. If you don't, because let's take a step back, Chrissy, let's take a step back and really observe this or witness. If you don't do this, what's the only alternative that you have?
just suffering.
Yeah. You can change the way you suffer. You know, instead of dieting, you can go into alcoholism. Into alcoholism, you can go to gambling. Instead of gambling, go into sex. You can find an alternative to run away from this. But this always exists. So whatever this is, which is what we're facing, that I'm going to be an old hag. I'm going to be hobbling. I'm going to be lonely. I'm going to be isolated. I'm going to be smushed into sand and blown into the wind. All those things that so what we're having you do is look into what has been there this entire time. It's not like these fears of being alone just showed up. They've been there for a very, very long time. In fact, you could say this is the foundation of why I have worked so hard. And it's so intense that if you look at how hard you've worked and how long you've been dedicated to working this hard, you could say that's how intense it is. So it equals like the feelings of fear of those things equate to how hard you've been working. And when you look at those two, it makes sense why you've been so crazy. Why you've had to micromanage everybody in the room. Oh, do they like me? Do they like me? Because you have such a huge, deep sense of fear of being alone. So you're micromanaging people's liking of you as if you can manipulate and control their emotions and feelings.
Yeah.
Right? And have you come to realize yet you can't?
Yeah.
There's only so much you can do, and it comes with intense levels of pain, sadness, depression, fear, impulsivity, anger. I mean, there's so much. You're a slave to whatever they are, and then you have to run circles around them to get them to like you, and then sustain their liking of you. Right? And so you're making contact with you don't necessarily care about, but you care about their liking of you. So you have all these disingenuous relationships. And some of them are genuine, but you don't feel the genuineness of it.
Yeah.
You're just now noticing they're genuinely caring of me. They don't care that I just gained 50 pounds. They don't give a shit that I'm older. They don't care. Because they're maturing. Right?
Yeah.
And so are you. That's what we're doing together. We're actually helping you mature emotionally.
Yeah.
You know, and so what's throwing a fit is the immatureness inside your perceptions. Your immature perception of yourself is throwing a fit. Because that immature perception, the childish perception of yourself, doesn't think that there's a different way of looking at the world or looking at yourself. That's the ego. This is the only way, and this is the best way, and without this way, you don't exist.
Yeah.
So looking at it again, I want you to see that what you're going into are all these emotions you have avoided, run away from at all cost, tried to hide. It's like you're trying to exit, suppress, remove, deny, avoid. And what I'm telling you to do is actually open the door and let it in, right? And so it's coming in and you're realizing, oh my God, this feels like aloneness. This feels like worthlessness. This feels like, so you're actually expressing what it feels like. There's some great benefit to just expressing what it feels like.
Yeah.
Okay? Now take out the poor me of my life is inferior. Do you know how to do that?
Take out the poor me, my life is inferior?
Yeah, boo-hoo. I have to feel these things. That.
Or it's just, I fucked up my life. I totally fucked it up across the board, every area. I fucked it up.
Poor me.
And I have to start over. And
boo-hoo. You hear it?
Yeah.
So you can't recover with that position. Where does that position take you? Because it does have a direction. What direction does that attitude take you?
Just takes me right back down.
Yeah, what you want. And don't you agree what you've been wanting is actually in driving and striving to get is never, it will never get rid of the hole in the void in this space of I can't handle it that you exist with. Continuous reaching and grasping and clutching to these things that don't really work. They don't really fulfill anything. And but they require a ton of dedication. In fact, they actually require your slavery and soul. So you don't have a life or a soul. You just exist as a slave to dedicating your life to trying to fulfill something that never really fulfills. So yeah, do you see that?
I do. It does feel like a door's opened. I mean, it's just, I just go through the day and I'll just burst into tears or and I'll just start like crying. I'll just be like, what the fuck is going on? I'll literally just be crying, going, I don't want to let go of being, I can't do, like, I'm just like, it's just terrifying.
You're holding on to something that doesn't exist. It requires that you are a slave, perpetual slave to working towards it. It is a mirage. You could say the mirage exists, but it is a mirage. It requires that you chase it and chase it and chase it, and it gives you something to do. But it's not acquirable. It's not attainable. It doesn't actually exist. It's always in the mind of the narcissist that it exists, right? Their perception of superiority is really their perception. I know because of what you do for a living, you know what a narcissist is like. They think that they literally, in their mind, are so goddamn special. And it's all not true. But it's all in their head.
Yeah.
And it's a joke when you run into it. I know you feel that. They really think they're special. And it's self-righteous specialness. It's self-righteous, like self-centeredism and superiority. Have you ever run into someone who has an affectation? Because I have. Yes. And every time I'm like, aren't you special? Poor things, they have to change the way they talk to feel special. Think of all the work they have to do to say, I'm special. And what's underneath that is, I am not special. But I want special. So they chase the mirage of specialness. Being a slave to everything they think makes them be perceived as special. Like changing their voice. Driving the right car.
I just had a good friend of mine write me from Australia and like send me her before and after pics of like a year of training. And she feels so good. It's just, it's just health. And I just was like, I just wrote to her, I'm in the exact opposite place. That's great. I don't even know what to say. It was just like,
good for her.
Great. I just said, that's awesome.
Good for her. Well, you and I both know that if this is what makes her feel so great, this is what her life is about.
Yeah.
It's sad to me. That to me is really sad. Because I understand.
It was sad, and I just also, I'm just like, I'm just very aware that it's gonna, that it's very small private club at this point, that I'm out of the norm, which is fine. I'm letting go of that. It's just, there's really, I'm walking amongst people that it's just kind of a solitary road, but whatever.
I would argue that actually what they're doing is very solitary.
Yeah.
They're not connected. See, that's another thing. You really think that they feel connected. Or that they are
I guess I know. Connected. I know that they're suffering. I know that.
But they're disconnected, that they actually separate themselves from others, that they are self-conscious, that if they aren't the hottest in the room, it makes them feel disgusted with themselves, that they're constantly comparing themselves to others, feeling insecure, feeling inadequate, always worried that what they're doing is the wrong thing to do. I mean, so that the illusion, and the funny thing is she sends that to you. Why would someone send that to you? What are they looking for? Is it really that gratifying internally to where they need to show before and after pictures?
Yeah.
I mean,
of course, and then she was like, "Don't show this to anyone. I would die if anybody saw that before. I would just die. Take this to your grave." I'm just like, I think you look really cute. I think you look great in all those pictures.
Yeah. Well, seriously, that might be someone that you don't give credit or credibility to. I wouldn't give that person any credibility to any sort of sanity. They'll figure it out in time. They'll figure it out in time, especially if she comes into a life circumstance that doesn't allow for all of that training, and she eventually starts binging because the way she's restricting food isn't realistic in reality. Yeah. It's only realistic in isolation. So eventually she'll hit reality, won't be able to do it, and she's going to gain some weight. And how much is that weight going to feel bad to her? Well, a whole lot, twice to 3 times the amount or more than when she was that way prior. Because of the pride she's taking in the thinness, as if this is permanently amazing, and it's not.
Yeah, I know. I know firsthand.
Yeah, me too.
And I guess I'm also trying to, I don't know, I guess just for the lack of, it would be nice if I felt some sort of spiritual connection to something.
You're not going to until you give up the victim position. I'm just telling you, you're not going to get anywhere when you hold on to the poor me, I'm at a huge loss. It just doesn't go anywhere from here.
Yeah.
It really doesn't. You'll stay here for like weeks and weeks and weeks and years, and eventually you'll go, I can't handle it. You'll go back into another cycle of what you've been doing before. You'll come back to this point again. And I
don't know. I hope, I mean, that's anything is possible. I'm never going to say never, but I just know I turn around and it's like just flames of hell. Like I can't, I guess what I mean is, this leap of faith. I just am sort of like, just God help me,
Yeah, well, you can't be helped if you feel sorry for yourself.
Yeah.
I'm trying to tell you right now, you can have all those leaps of faith, but you're not gonna get anywhere when you feel sorry that you have to go through this. I mean, you really feel like a victim. And that is it's a huge stop point. Like nothing will change. And it actually is worse to me. It's like that's a really poisonous environment to stay in because it's so narcissistically. Like you're basically feeling sorry that you can't be a narcissist.
Well, I feel like I'm kind of moving through that, and I feel like I'm now just gripped with fear. Like I'm just paralyzed with what comes next. Like, and actually, the 5 steps of recovery, like actually give up the thinner body forever,
That's permanent,
and that it's permanent. And there's times where I do accept myself now, and then it's the fucking 3rd step. Okay, you're gonna get fatter. Oh shit. Okay, let's say even if I could accept that, then if I'm gonna lose weight, I can't even care, and that feels like, oh my god, I can't lie. Like, is that real? Is that actually? It's just going into the unknown of moving through those steps.
Mm-hmm. Well, and those steps, I want you to understand, make total and complete sense from an open mind.
They make
from a closed mind, it does not. It feels hard. It feels impossible. So
it feels possible. It feels they feel like, Moses brought him down from the mountain, in stone. Like those feel like holy shit, how did she even think of these? This is it.
I didn't think of them. I didn't. This isn't a cognitive step-by-step process that I created. This is what I had to do to recover myself. Yeah. And every single client I've worked with that has fully recovered has done all of that. And I've, over the years, come to have words for it.
Yeah.
So I didn't create it.
They're so powerful. And so I'm just, it's just fucking huge. Like it's just feels, it's pretty fucking huge.
Okay, so let's take this.
Courage than, it's the courage and the faith that this takes is mind blowing, and it's not a small thing. Like I know, snap your fingers and it happens.
No, it feels like you're gonna die.
And I just feel like I'm, wiggling out. It's out of my skin. It's huge and it feels good. Like I feel like it's a positive thing. I feel that it's positive, and I can feel these shifts, like mountains moving. Like it feels incredible. Mm-hmm. It's an exciting to think that I could live the rest of my days, however many days I have, just with a new butterfly. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited by it. It's just this murky moment of just like, am I like, you know, I think, oh, you know, this week it came up that like me and Dee, you know, like, oh, we've been in front of the camera before getting filmed, and like, you know, boom, my thought came, I'm not fucking letting myself on camera looking like this, you know, and it's just like, oh God, you know, it's just really letting go of all fucking pride. I mean,
Yeah,
which I am doing. I mean, I like posted pictures of myself with double chin and my stomach rolling. I didn't care. I was like, that's me. I don't fucking care. You know, my niece posted some picture of me in a bathing suit diving in the ocean at midnight and I was all, oh my God, there's my body. And I just went, I don't care. Go ahead, fucking tag me. I don't care. Like, so I'm definitely making progress with this pride, but that's just what it comes down to. It's just this. And I just keep saying to myself, what you've done is not working. You are this way because of your fucking great ideas. Like, just have faith and try a new way. Just let it all, it's just circling, pacing on the platform right now.
Yeah, I have a sense, I'm getting the sense, and I could be wrong, that you are trying to force this.
I don't know what it feels like. I'm trying to push myself to.
Okay, I don't want you doing that anymore.
I want to do it. I know you do.
Oh, Chrissy, I don't want you trying to force it anymore. It's making it your teeth grit.
Yeah.
And that's not the way it works. I want you to imagine what it feels like to fall backwards off the cliff.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. Feels like mercy.
It just happens? Like all of a sudden it just happens?
It feels like mercy. Like I quit. It feels like I lost. And the humility it takes to surrender. So to some degree, I get a sense that there's holding and clutching on one side and releasing on the other.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, you know, my family, my mom, you know, she's beauty queen, like, it's just image.
And you'd have
don't let them know, the family, how fucked up we are.
Yeah, I mean, all of this is, so what's the answer to all of these?
It's just.
Okay. Oh, well, okay. I mean, so you're still having this, you're fighting internally, and so when you recognize that there is no way out other than total and complete destruction, you're not going to get out holding on to some of the stuff you still have. Yeah. I think that's what you're trying to do, is biasedly and unconsciously, you have some cognitive dissonance in this whole process. You know what cognitive dissonance is?
Cognitive it's accepting the actual physical terms of it, or the actual literal terms of it.
Do you know what it is? Do you know what cognitive dissonance is?
No, tell me.
Okay, let me see if I can pull this up. Well, it's a biological, physical response to when your beliefs that you believe in dogmatically are presented with evidence that it's wrong. It would be like I'm Republican and I'm now being presented with evidence that I made a terrible decision in voting what I did.
Okay.
So I am wrong. You can't
accept what's in front of you. You can't accept
I'm wrong.
Because you're so set in your beliefs.
Correct. So what happens when people experience cognitive dissonance is they tend to go into denial. They start to make excuses, even though there's destruction everywhere around them. Terrible things are going on, and they're totally going into denial. They reject it, even though it's clear in front of their face. They go into, it's battered wife syndrome.
Yeah.
So, but cognitive dissonance is when you're presented with clear evidence that your beliefs are wrong. Okay? Now you're seeing what I'm describing with the whole president thing, right?
As you have your little clipboard and you're presenting me with very clear evidence. I'm like, oh my God.
How's this for an example? Sorry, all you guys out there who don't agree. Cognitive dissonance hurts. It really hurts. I was presented it with religion a lot. You know, where people that I thought were great people were sinners. You know, so religion and politics, when you're in that egocentric concept of I'm right, you're wrong, I'm right, you're wrong, I'm right, you're wrong. There's a ton of cognitive dissonance that comes with it. You know, that state of duality around there's only one right. Right? Yeah. So you're stuck in a little cognitive dissonance with certain belief patterns. So I'm not saying that it's all of them, because some of them you're over. You're like, fuck that, I'm done. But I have a lot of cognitive dissonance in how I identify myself with my parents. You know, you have to give it all up. You have to say everything has to be surrendered. Everything. And I'm obviously directing you to the most direct route of recovery. Okay? Because there's other alternatives that just take a lot longer.
Yeah.
So, but when people get down to this space, like I said, I'm taking you directly down. I'm not going to work you up and out. I just don't think that's possible at this point. Comes a point, in Dante's Inferno, he describes a point where there's no return. I think you're past that point. You have to go out the bottom. Which is like suicide. So go into suicide. Let's go into dying. I think dying is very similar to this experience, like literal physical death.
It feels like it.
It does.
It's just so mentally. It's just.
So let yourself experience that.
Images to come to me, you know. It's just like oh my.
I want you to go through the experience of it. Let's just go through the experience of dying. You know, if you were to die, what happens is, I know what happened for me. Is I began, once the decision was made that I was going to be committing suicide as soon as possible, I immediately went into grief and grieving of my life and reconciling it. Who do I need to talk to? Who do I want to make closure with? I need to understand this fully and completely. I'm not just going to go do it. Because when the time comes for me to commit suicide, it needs to feel complete. But this life is complete.
Jesus.
Don't you agree you would do the same thing?
Yeah.
Because you really want to put closure to this experience, to these relationships. And don't you agree there's a bunch of relationships that you would not need to have closure with? They're meaningless. They're not really connected. You don't really have the necessity to connect with these people. They don't have a whole lot of importance in your life. Yeah. And then there are other relationships that are foundational to you, that have been very meaningful to you.
Yeah.
That you would want closure with. If it's not in face-to-face, it's in your heart, you put closure to it. I knew for me that I wouldn't have face-to-face closure because I didn't want people to know, because I didn't want people to stop it.
Yeah.
So it's silent. For me, it was a silent closure. To go, I want them to know how much I love them. And I would just allow myself to feel love for them. And once I did that, there was closure, and I moved down, and there wasn't very many in that space, but I came down to my own family. And this was where these are the most important and most meaningful relationships that I needed to put closure to. And I know in your head that you have some of those, and you care about them deeply. And it's unconditional care. Notice how all of a sudden some of the dumb shit and fights that you've picked are just dumb and stupid. You know, when it comes down to it, like relationships with someone that you're holding on to some weird resentment that is so narcissistic that has no meaning when it comes to saying goodbye.
Yeah, it's true.
Because the truth is you love them deeply.
Yeah.
But you've totally disconnected to manipulate something for some narcissistic reason. So you immediately become conscious of those things. And you realize how dumb and wasteful your life holding on to some manipulative, resentment for nothing. You get nothing out of it besides disconnecting from someone you really deeply care about. So you start to feel some forms of regret. And when you go through that, The closure comes from knowing that you would never do that again. So you learned something from it. So the wisdom is gained in that moment. It's like, I will never do that again.
Yeah.
If given another chance, I would never do something. I would just say, I'm sorry. I would just open my heart to being vulnerable and witnessing that I was kind of a bitch. And I would just say, I'm so sorry. And I would want to feel connected with them in a more compassionate and a more honest level. Am I making any sense right now?
No, it is. It feels very, I think you really hit on something that could be helpful for me to just really see it as my old life ending and a new life beginning.
Yeah, so you need to put closure to it, like you're dying.
Yeah. It does feel, it does feel like that. I guess, when you would say that in the past, I would be like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm kind of recovering, and it doesn't feel like that.
Yeah. No.
Next thing I knew, I was doing another round of HCG.
And I'm still recovered, even though I never really dealt with shit. So let's keep on going.
Oh my God, I'm like driving around the streets of Hollywood going, oh my God, I'm dying. Like clutching the wheel going, why? This is ridiculous. Why do I feel like I'm dying?
I'm literally going to get murdered.
I'm just like, I'm crawling across the desert, like scratching, like praying for a drop of water. And I'm like, what
feels like murder. Feels
like
murder and helplessness, and you're scratching at the surface, and it is a nightmare. It's like being inside a nightmare.
Like wrestling with some giant underwater monster.
Yeah.
I come up for one gasp and then I pull back down. It's like,
and that's fighting. That's what you're doing. It's still somewhat fighting it. You're still trying to run away from it. And notice, I want you to know something, Chrissy, and everybody who's going to watch this video. I intentionally bring you to this space or direct you to this space. I don't do it. You're doing it, but I am in guiding you into that place. So when people come to me, they have this expectation that I'm going to talk to Robin and it's going to feel really good, and our sessions are going to make me feel so much better about myself, and we're going to be like, my self-esteem is going to be so great because she's going to help me feel better about myself. And it's like, no, we're about to go into hell.
I feel terrible.
Right? And you paid for this.
I feel so, it's just all day, every day, I feel so terrible.
Yeah, I know. This is the route. Oh you're going down, you're going out the bottom. And I can tell when people are in this space. I have this radar. I don't know what it is of awareness. I can tell when someone's there because I've been there. There's no way to get out through the top. You have entered in a contract with the devil because you have decided to be narcissistic. That's that contract of superiority. The only way out is through inferiority. And to the narcissist, because your brain and your belief patterns have attached life to supremacy or superiority, death comes in inferiority, and your brain doesn't know the difference between some fictitious fantasy and reality. So your body is responding as if you are being murdered. And it comes from an outside sense of it, because you're feeling victimized. So it is happening to me. So that victim positionality of powerlessness is why it feels like murder. It doesn't feel like death so much as it feels like something is killing you. So it feels desperate, impulsive. It feels like you have to escape, like self-defense.
Yeah.
Right? Again, so once you get to this recovery point, where I'm directing you is if you surrender completely, you are basically dying. And so this process of death, you need to experience. What will life be like? Well, my parents are going to abandon me. Well, that's the lesser of the situations here if you were to actually die. If you actually died, how would they respond?
Well, I mean, my dad's already gone, but my mom would never in a million years reject me. She's super supportive, but what could happen, what scares, but just a sad thought to happen is that she and I, we've always been so close and on the same wavelength, and like this is going to create, it already has created separation, not like in a, there's just, it's just separation, but not in a way where she's nothing but supportive, but you know what I mean, like we're different. I'm going to be different now than my mom.
You are, and
it's just
in a beneficial way, because you're going to be more loving and you're going to be more forgiving. You'll be more forgiving
of myself,
well, and of her,
loving
and of her, because you're going to see what she's doing, and you're going to go, oh, she's sweet, in her narcissism of total suffering.
Yeah.
So you're skipping ahead. So go back to how she would respond to your death.
Oh, I want she'd be absolutely devastated.
So why don't we witness that?
Oh, God.
This is what I had to go through, too. Don't you agree? If you were dying, you would actually question, how is my mom going to survive it? How is it going to impact her life? And you and I both know what that's going to feel like for her.
Yeah, it's not going to be good. I would never wish that on anybody.
Well, a dose of reality for her.
Yeah.
She will become aware of how distorted and off she is with you. She would probably want to will you back to life as anything that you are. So do you see the shift that would occur with your death is her awareness? I think often parents who are narcissistic lose sight of what is real. They get caught up in this weird fantasy delusion, and they lose sight of reality. And when it comes to the death of a child, it is no more real than that. What happens to all of her narcissism in the moment of your death, or the moment she sees the body?
Oh, God.
What happens to all of her fucked up narcissism? But her belief patterns, all the things she would judge and minimize and promote in you. Just go there in your mind. What would happen to her awareness looking at your body and confirming that it is dead?
Well, she would just be, well, first of all, she's, she's amazing and loving and all that. I don't, but yes, does she have some limitations in a blind spot where, will she say, you do look better, lose with a few pounds off you? Like, yeah, there's some.
Yes, those are what I'm talking about.
There's been a comment here and there, and she's definitely a thin supremacist.
Yeah, would she really, if it meant that for you to come back, that you had to be obese, would she be okay with that?
Of course.
Now, see, that's something she's not aware of, is she? Do you think she would rather you suffer deep, dark depression, feeling inadequate because you're not thin enough? Would she rather you live open and free as you are in the body that exists without any conditions around it? Which one would she rather?
Of course, she would rather me live free.
Yeah, so you have to honor that even though she's completely clueless. She's lost total sight. She's completely twisted and distorted in her mind around what reality is and what her fantasies.
Yeah.
I witnessed this with my mother in relation to religion. I witnessed that she had completely lost touch with reality. She loved me through the lens of religion. And if I were to die, that lens would be shattered. It's completely shattered.
Yeah, I mean,
So if I stay alive, I have to accept that lens will be existing. I can't remove that. That's her karma. That's her life's struggle.
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, I guess my mom's probably not the best example because she is so. I mean, she's open.
Okay,
she's the
so
only
what
one.
is your disconnect with her then? Why is she such a big part of this?
I guess. Well, it's just like I said, it is us being so alike, and I guess I feel there's ways that I'm happy that I'm like her, and then there's other ways that just like I repeated, the model of her staying for so many years and being abused by my dad, and and which she's completely, sorry for and is atoned for and all that. So it's and then just her image, like she'll still look at, oh, don't post that, I look like an old lady. I'll be like, Mom, you're about to turn 80. Like, why is it? Or, oh, I'm so ashamed. Oh, I'm so embarrassed.
Okay, so
I just ate
yeah,
another
of
piece
course.
Of pizza,
okay,
and I'm just like,
so
Mom, why are
you
you embarrassed that you just ate another piece of
got
pizza?
it. So this isn't all or nothing. You understand that my mother was a saint. She was a saint. So it's not like, and she was never abusive. Ever. So, but there was a part of her belief patterns that were so destructive and isolating and radicalized, and but to her it was safe, right? So it was those specific belief patterns, at least for me, that were somewhat part of why I was going to commit suicide, So it's those things that create vulnerabilities that I'm talking about. It's not the whole thing. You need to be able to discern that.
Yeah, or just I feel like I'm going to leave some part of her behind.
Correct.
I'm going to be,
and you have to be okay with that because you're not her. You're not your father. You have to surrender some of this, and you might be projecting your own shame within yourself onto her. So either way, you have to surrender it all and come out of the closet with yourself and with your family and with your siblings and with your mother and with your father who's passed away. He still needs you need to come out of the closet as a failed and flawed person. Which is actually reality.
Slender. She had a nice slender figure. Oh yeah, her figure. She had a nice slender figure. I'd be like, Dad, you can't. Oh my God.
So maybe your tie isn't to the mom; it's to your father. You need to come out with your father. So you need to go into how your father would respond to your death.
Yeah.
Knowing that it is, obviously tied to the mental health struggles you're having that are pretty severe.
Yeah.
Go into what he would want you to do, knowing what he's aware of.
Well, he would want me to look good. He always took pride.
Okay, that was the narcissism in him. So I guarantee you on his deathbed, he'd let that go.
Yeah.
I'm positive he did. There's no more clarity than the moment you leave your body, okay?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. I don't know. I still have some unresolved things with him. It's still.
Yeah, you're getting something out of that. So you're not going to go anywhere with that.
I still get pissed at him for how he treated my mom and how he put down his three daughters.
And there's the victim position, and you're still lacking compassion, and you're still saying poor me and poor her and poor. In that position, you cannot move forward in that position.
Yeah.
So closure. Is that really how you would do it again if you had an alternative? I mean, how has that worked out for you? Think about how disconnected.
Holding on to just go back and forth to just still being pissed at him, or just how he
what is that gonna do? That's not. You realize that that's saying that your mom's a victim. Like she didn't participate.
Yeah.
She didn't get anything out of it. So you're positioning this as if your dad is a monster without any relativity. Isn't he forgivable? I mean, so these are things you're playing God, and you're not going to recover in this position.
Yeah.
So good luck getting out of it when you play God. Telling people what they should and shouldn't be doing. How dare he? That right there is so low.
Yeah, that's true.
I know. Super juvenile and immature. You cannot mature when you hold on to belief patterns like that.
So I just have to, like, forgive everybody?
Yeah, you have to, but it's not like, damn, poor me, I have to forgive people. You're the one suffering. You're the one who's sucking in your life. So why wouldn't you do it? Clearly, this position has not really benefited you or your mom in any way. So you might want to think about you holding that resentment to your father who really didn't know what he was doing. You're not giving any relative, his culture, what he was brought up in. That was normal. Do you think he really knew what he was doing?
Well, he would pound the pulpit and say one thing and then fucking leave the church and do an entirely different other thing.
Well, do you think he really understood what he was pounding at the pulpit? He probably memorized it.
Oh, he was an alcoholic anyway. He had bottles hidden everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't know why you're judging him when you're in the same state he is. You're more like your father than your mother. I can totally relate to your father right now. Way more than you are.
Shit.
You are so into yourself in relation to him. You're just like him.
Oh, God.
Have you seen that at all? Can you see it? You are
no,
way more like him.
I'm like my mom. I always just am like,
no.
My mom and our thighs. It runs in the family. And our this and our that.
Oh, Jesus Christ. That's a physicality. That has nothing to do with this personality disorder that you're carrying around.
Well, I know, but then more than that. But it's just she and I look alike. We have a lot of the same mannerisms.
That's a physicality. That has nothing to do with your narcissism.
Or we have the same narcissism too. We have the same.
You just told me your mother. You just went around and told me your mother is really actually has very little to do with this. So listen to you. You do not want to admit this. I'm directing you right now. You paid me for this. It is clear as day to me. You are just like your dad, and you don't want to hear it because there's cognitive dissonance, my dear. You might want to open your mind to looking at your father through your eyes to see that, how he's doing this is no different than me presenting myself this way and that I'm a mental case in reality. You're judging him for drinking and hiding it, but presenting some superior identity of religion in reality. Look what you're doing. You're the same exact way, but yet your reasoning is better than his. So look at that. You needed this conversation. This was clear to me. This was like ding, 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 ding. Oh yeah, now I see it. Don't judge it. See, you're feeling that way. You're suffering because of your narcissistic superiority and the position you've put yourself. So that's why you're like, ugh. I'm not. I think that everything your father did, first of all, I understand radical religion. I would have been drinking too. There's no grace. And alcohol is grace in a bottle. Don't you connect to that?
Well, I connect to that.
He had to hold himself to a position he felt inadequate to. And he was inadequate to it. And he had a huge amount of insecurity around it.
He had no respect for women. Yeah, he was completely...
Well, that's, Christian...
He had no respect for us. That he had
radicalism.
3 daughters coming up in this world. He never had one conversation with us. Like, this is your life. Like, he didn't care. He was just, look pretty.
Well, that's what the culture was like. That was the culture of that time.
Well, my cousins, they were all ministers, and their dads, adored them and told, oh, you're so amazing. Go out there and find a good man that treats you right. Go to college. You're smart. You're more than a pretty face. You're this, you're that. You're amazing. And they're all like married, nice, decent men and have families. And, we're just all flailing out here, picking one asshole after the next.
Okay, when you rewatch this, I want you to start at 50 minutes. And I need you to hear your poor me victim story come out. Your father did the best job he knew how, and you're holding him to some standard he was not aware of. And you want to know something?
How could he not be aware of it? How could he not look around and see other men that cared about their daughters?
So seeing is very different than being aware of how that happens and how to do it. I'm not going to try to convince you, but this is clearly where you're stuck. It's clear as day. Like, bing, it's super. This is why you're not going to recover.
How is my dad managing to do this? He's been gone for 11 years.
It's not him. It's your shitty ass story about him. It's your narcissistic position as if you're better than him and deserved better. You are the one that's the douchebag. And you're the one holding on to that story.
I think I did deserve better, and so did my sister.
I know you believe that. Clearly you do. But you're expecting that out of someone who doesn't understand or know internally how to do it. Because he clearly wasn't surviving himself.
It's true. He died of alcoholism young.
Yeah.
And
how do you think he's going to be able to do that when he is internally failing himself?
Yeah.
So you're holding him as if he intended to be a dick and he intended this. You're the one that's the asshole. Because you're holding him to a level or expectation that is above and beyond his reality. And do you not see that he felt horrible? And his response to it was to deny it, just like you're in denial. You are the spitting image.
Well, I've been to fucking therapy and dealt with this and thought I forgave
I would argue that you've actually dealt with it. I would say, of course you haven't. You had a therapist that felt sorry for you. That's what you went through. I do not feel sorry for you in any way. This is what you deserve. When you play this narcissistic position, don't complain when you are a miserable wretch. Don't complain. You deserve to feel like shit because of that position. So you need to soak this conversation in because you're clearly not doing it yourself.
Well, it's not like I think about it even much or think, oh, poor me, my dad did. I mean, it's not like...
You hold a lot of energy around it and you're not open to grace or forgiveness. So that's a sign. So
I mean, I love him. I took him at the end. We made,
No, you didn't.
Him around in his little wheelchair, and he got into rehab like 3 days.
You still, so none of that really is expressing the truth of your feelings. So, see, notice how you're trying to go into denial around it. You need to go there. You need to come to Jesus with yourself when it comes to how you're positioning yourself with your father. And if you would actually do that again, knowing how this has turned out for you.
Okay.
This victim position around this is a huge part of why you are not moving forward. You're moving forward on one hand, and the other hand, and notice how you only go as high as the slowest part of the lowest part. Your recovery can only be as expansive as the smallest expansion. It's going to be super conditional the rest of this recovery because your lowest point is actually where you're at. It's keeping this low. So in some respect, you're feeling freedom, and it's going to be very temporary because you have to change your overall perception of life and how to give everything grace, because if your father is worthy of forgiveness and grace and like he did the best he could with what he was aware of, and it's a sad, sad, sad life that he lived, because he was unaware of how to be different. And he was so prideful that it held him hostage. And the only way for him to feel any relief was to drink. I would drink too if I was in that state of mind. He did the best job he could. Why hold him to a level that he is not at all? Nowhere close. If you knew what you know now, you would never have given him credit. You would never have expected him to be any different. You would have just said, you know what, he has a lot of issues. that he's not facing, and he should be drinking because that's giving him some temporary relief, at least, because if he didn't drink, he'd probably commit suicide. So at least he was alive, and I bet you anything that was his rationale. I bet you anything that was his rationale. Yeah, that was his rationale. He probably thought if he committed suicide, he was going to burn in hell. So he drank.
I don't know. I don't know if he was that deep or even had any, I don't know.
Well, I'm pretty sure of it. You know, to manage to be an alcoholic, to be an addict of any type, you're managing a lot.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, see, notice how you're not willing to look at him through this space, through this lens. I'm forcing you to do it. Oh, it's true. I know. For you to recognize the truth, there's an awareness that you are not using with him. You get something out of pushing him down. There's something you get out of it. Is it loyalty?
I mean, I'm surprised by my own. You know, I was daddy's girl. Like, I loved him. Like, you know, I'm surprised right now by what I'm even saying.
Yeah, but you're telling me the truth of your feelings. So yeah, let's open yourself up to it. Don't criticize it.
Yeah.
What do you get out of putting him in this position? Is it connection to your mom? Is it a way you manipulate your connection to your family? I mean, I'm just throwing things out for you to go, what do you get out of that? Is it an excuse?
Mad. I have you know, he did cause a lot of damage in our family, and it's
so
like
someone to blame.
You know, I'm rolling him in his wheelchair, like, in the last 2 weeks before I died, and he's like, I don't know what what the problem is with me drinking. I never hurt anybody. I never, you know, caused anyone pain. And I, like, fucking pulled the e-brake on the wheelchair and, like, turned around and kneeled down in front of him, and I'm like, are you out of your fucking mind? You destroyed our family.
And there it is.
And he looked at me in complete shock. I was like, how dare you say that?
Yeah. Sucks to be you right now.
Doesn't that suck to have no accountability?
No, not at all. No, it sucks to be a miserable wreck. Thinking that you're God and you're holding him accountable. You have positioned yourself in a pretty wretched position. And there's something you get out of it. You just took it again. What do you get out of it?
Well, no one else had the balls to say that to him. I guess maybe I get out.
You're getting your specialness.
I'm this mouthpiece. I'm the special one. I'll fucking say the truth, but no one else will.
Yeah, but the truth is relative to your narcissistic needs. So you have to keep that in mind. Everything you're doing is self-serving. Because you're in that state of being in your own survival. So everything you're doing is self-serving, even if it is wrong.
Well, what would you have said to him in that moment? And he said, I don't know, I never hurt anybody.
I would have said, you know what, Dad? We love you. No matter what. We're still here for you. You know?
Yes, it just brings up, like, my loyalty, I guess. Like, yeah, it does bring it up. Like, it was just so gross. You know, it was gross to my mom. It was disgusting.
Yeah, he was miserable. He was miserable, and it had nothing to do with your mom. He would have been that way with anyone. He'd just go out and
put on his boots to go country western dancing, and she'd be in the driveway begging him up to go, throwing herself on the car and, like, halfway run her over, and just go out and sleep with other women and come home and tell her about it. And it just was disgusting.
I know, and it was disgusting how your mom enabled it. So you might want to look at the big picture. You are so positioned. And you might want to consider, if you want to recover, looking at this through a different lens. Because the lens that you're looking at it through is pretty bad. I mean, it has bad... I mean, you're just, you know, here you go.
Okay.
You know, this is a major bottom for you. This is not something that I mean, this is where it's like, sure, you had therapy. They probably felt sorry for you. What is that going to do besides promote this?
I thought I like moved on from it. I never even did. I thought I.
Well, what do you think now?
I guess I moved on in the fact that I really didn't feel like I was blaming him for my life. I had to be like, okay, I'm an adult now, let that go. And I feel like I did for a long time, but apparently there's some remnants left.
You mean it's original, your original position is still there. So.
Oh, shit. How did this happen? Jesus.
Well, it's like, again, going through a death process, these things pop up. To me, this is like, you need to open yourself up to why you feel, the thing is this too, when you're this critical and judgmental of people, you are holding yourself to that same level of criticism and judgment.
True.
Oh, I know, it sucks, right?
Judgmental, God damn it.
And so, yeah, here's your karma.
Shit.
So how are you going to recover from your assholeness if you're still going to be an asshole?
So what? Oh, God.
So if your dad is forgivable and you can feel that, like, oh, I have so much compassion for his mental illness, for his trauma, for how he was brought up and how he compensated with religion. Oh my God, even more harmful. And then he had to drink, and so he functioned this way out of his own need to survive. And he probably had terrible shame about it because that's what's underneath it all. And, but at the same time, you're so impulsive in your survival. It's no different than when you have to go follow your ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
Same impulsive crazy train.
Yeah.
But yet you're better than him. So you have to really open your eyes to forgiving him and saying he was a great father. He was a great person in relation to where he was. He did a great job. He did the best he could. He didn't have any alternative. If he did, don't you think he'd take it? Because I'm pretty sure he was miserable, just like you. So if you could have an alternative, wouldn't you take it?
Yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah, but you're not aware of another one because this is the one you want. You have to go, I don't want to feel that way about my father. I don't want to feel that way.
I don't want to feel that way about anyone, I guess.
Right?
I just need to look at how
So you have to really look at who deserves for you to feel that way about. Who really deserves those feelings. Who really deserves it to the point where you have those feelings and you create those feelings out of a perception. That means you have to hold on to that perception just in case, right? You're only as open as the most closed you are.
I get that.
Right? So here you have it. This is where you're stuck. You're stuck in this position. And if he's forgivable and there's a way to have compassion for him, I have clients who are molested for over into their teenage years.
Yeah.
And it is in their mind, out of needing relief, they find the route to why that's so forgivable.
Yeah.
And your mom needs to be forgiven because she was absolutely a part of it in her martyr victim positionality. That I guarantee you she was just as abusive in a different way. I wouldn't be surprised if she emotionally molested you guys.
Well, yeah.
And I say that in compassion because she didn't know any different either.
Yeah.
So
there were some really horrible early years, for sure.
Well, yeah, but you know what? If you had to go through them again, I guarantee you wouldn't attach to any of it. Because that's where you went. I don't want to say wrong. That's where this began, is actually getting involved. As if it's credible. One of the things I often coach people with kids in dysfunctional marriages or divorces is the most important thing you can teach your kids is to not attach to the crazy. Don't take it serious. Don't make it credible. You need to witness the, retardation in both sides and let them be retarded.
Yeah.
And that's where you're holding your dad to this level when he's retarded. Your dad was emotionally, psychologically, and even mentally, because of the alcohol, special needs. But yet you're being a victim like he knew better and he could have done better. And look at all those other people in their lives so much better. And that right there is narcissism. A deep-seated fear of being inferior, because that's how you felt. And so if you feel inferior in that, that's a sign that you're a victim of it. And so you have to go into, am I really a victim of this? If this is the environment I'm raised in, how would I get through that again without having the same narcissistic coping mechanism? Because it is a coping mechanism, right? You wouldn't attach to it. If you had to go back, you wouldn't be like, they're fucking crazy and I'm just going to be myself. I'll do what I have to do. I'll honor my father and mother. I'll do what they say, but I'm not going to make it real. I'm not going to take them serious. They're a little crazy.
Yeah.
And you would have forgiven them while you were in it. It wouldn't have been my mom against my dad against my mom, me against my siblings. You would have never done that. You would have just been, I'm just not going to get involved because those two are crazy together. And they're crazy.
Yeah.
In a codependent, dysfunctional, abusive marriage on both sides. Because the enabler is just as abusive as the abuser. So, if you were gracious and forgiving about their special needs, your dad, as he said, look what I did, you would have been like, you're right, Dad. You did an amazing job. We love you.
I wouldn't have to I just gotta tell him. I just gotta prove it.
Exactly, because what would that do besides break his heart? Which is the last thing he needs while he's exiting. I know how much you love us, Dad. You loved us a lot. Even though he didn't know how to express it, he didn't know, you can give him the truth that he really did care and love for you, even though it was self-centered, directed, You had his same upbringing. Think of the thousands and thousands of experiences that he had and the culture and what was promoted and what he felt he had to do. Again, he was in hardcore religion. That right there tells you what his childhood was like. Okay? Radical zealotry.
To an extent, for sure, there's that dogma going on. He was, actually worshipped and adored and got away with everything and just never really had anything.
No awareness. But yet pressure to be what he is. Pressure to be this illuminated person, but yet have no reality to grasp himself.
I've always just thought he never had anything to build character because everyone always fixed everything for him and was the golden boy and never everything. He just had it easy and breezy, so he never really built a spine.
So why expect him to have a spine and then be a victim because he doesn't have one? And he's clueless. It's not like he's aware. I know he felt that way. I know he felt spineless. Why do you think he drank?
Yeah.
So it's sad. It was a sad way of life that he lived, a sad existence. But it's really all he knew how to be and do. So he found a way to exist, and he needed alcohol to do it.
Well, he had a lot of charm, and he could walk into a room and have everybody wrapped around his finger in 2 seconds.
Oh, sounds like someone I'm talking to.
Oh, God.
I've heard you describe yourself that way. You just have not seen it.
I mean, I knew I got my comedic chops from him. He loved to, put on shows and wear costumes, and I guess I just haven't really thought much about how that I'm like him. I always just assumed I was more like my mom, but I'm now, I guess, okay, you've given me a lot to fucking think about. Oh my God. I feel kind of nauseous.
Just keep in mind my intention here.
No, I know. It's very true and it's very loving.
Okay, good.
It's very it feels it's painful as it is. It's like a flashlight like flashing in like the underground caverns that haven't been touched.
It's like you're holding on to this one thing in your little cave, and I'm like, you need to get rid of that. Get rid of it. And you're like,
so
no.
I see that you're pointing. This goes hand in hand with my controlling, and just goes hand in hand with the things that I've been realizing about myself anyway. But it's like just another. It's just bigger. It's even more. Yeah, I just have to forgive everybody and just love everybody.
Yeah,
I can love myself.
Yes. Well, you go into your forgivability. Yeah, you go into your innocence, that you've always done the best that you, even when you have been abusive, because I know you're aware of your abusiveness.
Yeah.
You didn't intend to hurt anybody. It was impulsive need to kind of protect yourself. Even when you excuse it and try not to see the consequences of hurting other people, you can see.
I have to find the crimes. I have to name the crimes. I have to let people know this is what you're doing and this is what you're doing to her, and I have to stick up for her, and I have to let them know they're doing that to them, and that's fucked up and that's wrong, and you can't do that bullshit. Don't put up with this. Do that.
That's abusive, and it's disconnecting, and it's judgmental, and it's super self-centered and self-righteous to play that position. All of it. And you've got to be able to say your intentions and integrity. Actually, you did the best you could. If you thought you were doing the right thing, even when you knew you were doing the wrong thing, in the moment, that's what you needed to do to survive. So you do it. You know.
Or being the truth teller. I always kind of prided myself.
You keep in mind the truth is relative to your perception. So to others, it's not the truth. You're just a bitch.
And the crowd cheers.
Right. Because you're not giving anybody the grace of what they're experiencing and what their perceptions of it and how they believe that they're doing the right thing, and you're going to come in there and say you're doing the wrong thing, like you own the book of what's right and wrong.
Yeah.
You don't see how abusive that is.
God.
As if you're the gatekeeper.
Yeah, I've totally been the gatekeeper. That little badge.
Yeah, well, you know what? You thought it was the right thing to do. Yeah. And so you have to see, that's what everybody's doing. Oh.
And I've gotten a lot of praise for it, too.
Well, praise for people it benefits.
For me. For some people. If they're on my good side.
That's what I meant. Praise from people who benefit from it. Yeah, you tell them. Ha! She's on my side.
No one's ever defended me like that. I've never had anyone be such true friends.
Oh, my God. And that's what you get out of it.
Yeah.
True friendship. That's not true friendship.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I've gotten out of it. I've been, praise and glory.
Oh my God. Because you're a rescuer in dysfunctional relationships.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and you love it. Anyway. Because you get this, it's a disingenuous sense of connection based on I'm your rescuer because you can't handle it and I can handle it because and you think you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Back to forgiving yourself. You have to look at everything that you've done, even though it's been terrible. And it's not all been terrible, but even the things that you regret, you didn't necessarily understand it until later.
Mm-mm.
And these relationships and how weird and obsessive and compulsive and the binging and the purging and the dieting and the insanity of it all, that you actually thought you were doing the right thing. And that's what everybody's doing.
Yeah.
To include me.
Yeah.
Again, go back to 50 minutes into this session. The way I'm describing it and talking to you, I really think is going to be beneficial to you. It might not.
I'm sure it will.
But in my mind, I'm thinking I'm going to tell her the truth. I'm going to be a truth teller. Right? So I am doing the best I can. And I am aware that I'm not aware of everything. So I give myself grace right now, knowing that my intentions, so based on my integrity, this isn't self-serving. I don't get anything out of I don't get anything out of this. Yeah, there's some monetary income, but that to me is not why I do this. Every time I talk, I go over with you. I'm doing that because I care. It has nothing to do with monetary stuff.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So it's like, so I'm going off of my integrity. My integrity is in line with what I think is the right thing to do from what I'm aware of. Right? And I'm using my heart, not a mentally constructed idea of what I should be doing. So I'm heart-centered and expressing that with the intention and integrity of help guiding you to help yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not helping you. You're helping you. So if you want to get out of yourself, here's what I would recommend. There might be someone better at this who wouldn't recommend what I'm recommending. I'm okay with that. Right? So if I'm doing that and you're doing that and your dad was doing that and that's what your mom was doing, she stayed in that marriage thinking it was the right thing to do. And she'll tell you all the reasons why, even though it was probably a terrible thing to do.
Yeah.
But her intentions were in line with her good intention and integrity. It was self-serving. She didn't want to have to deal with being a stay-at-home, she didn't want to have to work or whatever it was. She didn't want to be like, oh my God, we got a divorce. It's such a terrible sin. Yeah, that's pride. So she stayed in this horrible marriage and enabled it and was a part of it and actually sustained it because of her pride. She didn't know that.
Yeah.
Pride. Is it really worth it?
It's true. Yeah.
So she's forgivable too. And when you look at the enabling that your dad experienced, he is totally forgivable. He was clueless. He was super clueless of anything other than that. And he felt victimized enough by his reality and terrible enough by his reality that he justified everything he did. So he didn't really feel bad.
Yeah.
Because his life was that miserable to where he had to find some sense of life, and it came through his narcissism. Narcissism gives you the idea that you're going to live. Well, clearly, it's a miserable life. If it was so awesome, if his heaven was so amazing, would he really need to drink? But he didn't think there was an alternative. Again, forgivable. Look at I'm so easily forgiving him right here.
Yeah.
But that's because I'm aware of what that does, and the power of forgiveness is so beyond words. Again, I understand why you would want to hold on to non-forgiveness with him, because you get pride out of it, you're getting something out of it, but what you get out of it is coming at a very high cost. And you're wanting to get rid of that cost. So how are you going to get rid of that cost if you're not willing to let go of what you get out of it? You don't want the cost, you better stop buying it. So you have to stop getting what you get out of it. And once you forgive yourself, you see that you are forgivable, but you'll notice that, that's what everybody else is doing. Oh, including my dad. I love him. He was someone's boy. He was someone's child at some point. Innocent and perfect. And all of what he experienced, all of the karma that was there, it all lines up and makes sense. And if he could go back and do it again, I guarantee you he would do it different. He would not do it the same way.
This is just a whole other huge, there's just, something else to be fucking humbled by. Just by being controlling, my, needing to be a special center of attention, and now needing to just stop being so judgmental and harsh. I'm definitely a hand, or just being, like you've said, like the sorceress, or just that I play God, like I do, I guess, or I have strong, what's right, what's wrong, what's that, and even that, like, oh, Kristen, she's so, I've even, she has her, what she thinks is, or I've even, like, oh, you're so, you're on your shit, and you can see you're so, what the fuck am I trying to say? Or it just isn't. I've even gotten glory that I can see this shit and say it and all this. But it's not. It's like, but I've also, equally if not more, pushed people away as well.
Yeah, and you're getting, and you could say you're getting something self-centered out of it, which motivates you to do it. So that comes from not necessarily centered in the heart. It's not necessarily
self-indignation, self-righteousness. Just indignant. I'm very indignant. I have very indignant part of me. Like, that's fucked up, or just protective, like overprotective of like my loved ones too. Like, you mess with them. I've gotten mileage off that. Like,
but I have a feeling you don't like that role. You wouldn't choose that role if you had another
I wouldn't choose it again. It's been exhausting, and then there's so much shit. It's like, how can you keep track of all the bullshit? It's exhausting.
Well, and then you're manipulated by victims who, I can't do this. Look what they did to me. You're never questioning that person.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you do something about it? Why are you? What?
Yeah. Well, that's.
Why would you think like that? Why would you choose to position yourself this way? What are you getting out of it?
Yeah.
What do you want, drama? Are you looking for drama? As soon as I hear that type of positioning, that's the first thing I hear is drama. Because you don't have to choose to be that way.
Yeah.
Some people choose it. And then they love having a team because it's like, we're going to get them back because they want vindication. So
I just love people so much. I just love so big. I just lose my mind sometimes. I want to protect them and be so loyal to them. Like,
right. See, again, if you were to, this is the stuff you get rid of when you die, right? You're like, I'll never do this again. That was a source of misery. It kind of took your life away from you because you're not a slave to everybody who's a victim.
Well, yeah, okay. Well, I like that this like an ending of one life. I just have to like make my amends and tie up all my loose ends, and forgive,
and understand,
and just let it all go,
and end it, and move on. And so it's like a reincarnation.
Like a leap of faith, reincarnation into a new life within this life.
Yeah, and you might not necessarily have a sense of how you're going to do it. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of blank. And that can be very scary. It feels a little vulnerable to go into a blank space of existence. But that blank space of existence is an opportunity to try it again. And what you do know is what you did last round, what you would never do again. You know, how you would relate to people, how you would relate to yourself, relating to the body. You know, if you got a new body, would you treat it the same way? Would you want it to be thin first and foremost? Would you, hold it hostage to thinness again?
No.
You would say, I don't want to even care any direction. I don't want it to be a focus. I don't want it to be front and center. I would rather just go into whatever body that is, accept it for as it is, so that I don't have to be held hostage to fixing it as my life's purpose. So if I'm born without a leg, I'm born without a leg. I'm going to accept it as soon as I inhabit it.
Yeah.
So then I am free then to express my life from that point. So that's how I did it in my mind. I kind of eliminated all of these things, got to a point of zero where it was just me and this body. Because, right before you die, it is really a disconnect from the physical form, where you leave the body and you're saying goodbye to it. You are it's no different than saying goodbye to your mother, saying goodbye to your father, saying goodbye to your dog, saying goodbye to your, your shit. Saying goodbye to all these identities that you devoted your life to being, which was really shallow and insignificant, So I know for me, it was like I said goodbye. I had to say goodbye on so many levels. And when it came to me in this body, I felt just incredible degrees of love and gratitude. Whereas I don't know how much time prior it was clutching and paranoia, and I had to exercise it's so fearful and insane around what it had to be for me to maintain this position, and I realized that if I got a new body, I would never do it again. You know, my first sense was I got to make it thin, and I went, oh hell no, I'm not doing that. I don't even care. Well, what if it's morbidly obese? Well, what will that feel like? What will that be like? It was so freeing. Because if I'm okay with it, my life begins. If I'm not okay with it, my life is paused. The way it has been. I'm paralyzed. It's a paralyzed life, and I'm not going to do that again.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And that's where you're living. And you're living in paralysis, basically. So it's like, well, if you want to live again, if you want to breathe again, you want your soul to have a life, you kind of need to get rid of these fake personas that have nothing to do with the soul. They're just fictitious ideas in your mind. You know, what if your soul and existence is what is used to define how you connect with people? Do you see how easy that would be? It's like, oh my God, there's no work.
Yeah.
Nothing. If someone doesn't like it, that's okay. They should find what they like. They're living their life. They should find what brings them joy. And if they need to have a thinner person to bring them joy, good job. Go for it. They're clearly unaware.
Yeah, and maybe I'm enough just sitting here. Maybe I don't have, you know.
Well, it would be so much easier. You'd be so much happier if you were just left alone.
It's just that I'm just somebody to chill and hang out with. Maybe I don't have to do any big heroic moves and big orchestrations and.
What if your funny personality is just good enough? Because there's some truth to what exists in that.
Yeah.
You know? Okay, dearie, I gotta go.
Me too. Thank you so much.